I've actually heard pretty good things about this movie. It got 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the few songs I heard gave me little hope that it was going to be, I don't know, good, or maybe okay. Unfortunately, this movie is really, really bad. My biggest problem with Pocahontas is the voice acting. I mean, Pocahontas herself is fine, but everyone else is just really terrible. The chief's voice definitely sticks out the most, since his voice does not match the rest of his tribe at all. But really, every character has an annoying voice. The villain is a joke, which is really weird because literally every other movie on this list has a great villain, even the not so great movies. I usually don't care about tonal problems because I don't think people notice it that much, but Pocahontas has scenes that are super epic and then deflated immediately by a cheeky line. Seriously, Disney, you ruined Savages because the tribe leader made a joke. Speaking of music, this movie has some pretty good music. I'll give credit where it's due. Like I said, the music is praised for a reason. Despite this, every scene that isn't a music number is obnoxious. Every character is pointless and stupid. Seriously, how did Disney follow up The Lion King with this absurdly boring movie? Come on, you were doing so well. Next. I really didn't want to see this movie. I mean, it doesn't feel like a Disney movie at all. It doesn't fit the template of a Renaissance film. It doesn't even fit the template for a regular animated film. And that's not in a good way. Usually, these movies are about character arcs and different scenery and heart tugging moments. And this movie has touches of that. But honestly, this movie just drops the ball in so many places. The kid is so unlikable. He's an idiot. And oh, yeah, he gets captured for half the movie. So I don't even think I can call him the protagonist because he doesn't affect the plot. I really tried to get invested, but it's really hard when there's not much to appreciate. The only good thing that surprised me was the villain. He reminds me of the villain from Mulan. Both of them aren't really complex, but at least they're intimidating. Other than that, it's really disappointing. I mean, it's better than Pocahontas because at least there were bits and pieces that were, you know, a good movie. But that's really not saying much. I'm never gonna revisit this because it's just not fun to watch. Tarzan is a weird movie. I like it, but there are some notable flaws with it too. Maybe I don't love it because it has a ton of slapstick. Maybe I don't love it because the other animals are given way too much screen time. Maybe it's the fact that the villain is not really interesting. It could be any one of those things, but to me, I think it comes down to the music. Phil Collins just, it does not fit a Disney movie at all. Plus, there's no musical numbers. I wish the mother had one. That would have been actually pretty touching. If they did it right. Thankfully, there are some good elements too. I mean, Tarzan and Jane are pretty adorable. I don't think that can be argued. And like, there's a good line here or there. The ending is also really, really cool. I love the final fight with the branches. Definitely one of the better final fights on this list. The conclusion they get to, it's flawed, but it's fine. And that's really how I describe the movie. Tarzan is a good movie that I have no interest in rewatching. This used to be my favorite Disney movie, believe it or not. I mean, it's still good, but it's definitely not better than Moana or Snow White or Toy Story 2. Don't get me wrong, the combo of Chinese culture and Disney is actually pretty well handled and great. The score also reflects this, with I think some Chinese instruments, The setting is super different compared to the other films on this list. I also really like Mushu. I know everyone thinks the genie's the best, and everyone else is a copy of him, but I don't really think that's fair. Mushu's a lot more grounded in his jokes with a lot less energy. I also think the cricket, he's cute. Disney put a lot of character into a cricket that can't speak. Then again, the tone is very inconsistent because of the really horrible man characters, and Mushu's sometimes slapstick humor doesn't really work for me. The songs are not my favorite either. Even the best song, I'll Make a Man Out of You, is nothing incredible like Go the Distance. The Chinese music and the interesting story make this movie a good time, even if it's not comparable to the top 5. The original Aladdin is pretty great. I don't think anyone would really argue with me on that. You have the genie, a really high energy pop culture machine that churns out about 50 references a minute. You have the insanity of Jafar, at the end at least, and you have the perfect couple known as Jasmine and Aladdin. Unlike Ralph Breaks the Internet, which I did not find amazing and had a reference humor that was in your face, the genie references so many things so quickly that if you don't get a joke, there's 5 more coming up that you will get. Still, this can kind of backfire because he's a little overwhelming and has no off switch. The animation really helps the movie have a distinct feel, and it also really helps Genie with his comedy. Because of this, the musical numbers are some of Disney's best visually, the escape scene is really tense, and the ending battle is really smart and epic. Speaking of the ending, I like that Aladdin beats Jafar by outsmarting him instead of like battling him, because Jafar literally has the entire world. It's a fun time that keeps you laughing. It's just not extraordinary like the top 5. Everything that follows is a 9 on 10 or above. Beauty and the Beast is a quaint love story between two unlikely people. I know everyone has praised this movie to no end, and a lot of people claim that it's the best Disney movie ever. I wasn't as attached, however, and that really comes down to one thing: subtlety. I like when a movie has hidden references instead of beating everything over the audience's heads. Like, okay, I get that Gaston is built like an animal. I got that. But instead, we have to hear a song. I feel like this movie could have been my favorite if they showed the audience instead of telling the audience. Honestly, though, that's my only issue, and it's not really a big one. Everything else is perfect. The characters are super detailed, and we get to see a lot of their personality, especially Belle, the Beast, and Gaston. Speaking of Gaston, he's a great villain, who I actually think is pretty menacing, especially at the end, and not played too much for laughs. The castle is great, and it has a lot of spooky imagery that gives it an evil feel. It's not the life-changing experience people say it is, but it's still a 9 on 10 and great. Keep in mind, this is only number 5. Hercules is really, really good at being fun. The songs are probably some of my favorite in all of Disney. I mean, how could you not like Go the Distance or I Won't Say I'm in Love? I mean, that opening is simply perfect. The characters are mostly great. Meg is probably my favorite female character on this list. That includes Belle. She has such a sass and literally does business with Hades. The muses are all fantastic, although that loud one kind of gets on my nerves. Hades is fantastic, obviously, but Hercules, I don't know. I never got why everyone loved him. The issue I have with him is that he's really superficial. Even though he saves all these people, I never really got the sense that he cared about any of them. Part of the reason this is because the townspeople are such idiots. The other problem is the ending. I mean, Hercules touches the river of death, but then has to dive in. Meg is crushed by a pillar and still lives. Hercules doesn't even help the gods. Honestly, this entire climax feels like the writers just gave up. But still, it leads to a great ending. If some of the problems had been fixed, I think this would probably be my favorite Disney movie of all time. Because of the villain, because of the songs, because of the side characters, and the plot. They all rank some of my favorite in Disney. Yes, I do enjoy this more than Beauty and the Beast, okay? The Hunchback of Notre Dame is great. People kept recommending this movie, and I have to say, they were right for doing so. A lot of reviewers claim this is the best animated movie ever. But it does have a lot of problems. Let's get the bad stuff out of the way. First, the tonal problems. I actually researched a little bit as to why this era in particular had such big tonal problems. Hunchback had it, Pocahontas had it, Hercules had it. Apparently, Disney Animation really wanted to create a serious and dark string of movies, but they were still confined to being happy Disney to parents, so they ended up making a movie with some of the darkest things in Disney, and also three gargoyles who are the most annoying characters ever, and townspeople who are the most slapsticky people ever. The gargoyles are the reason people don't like this film, and they are the reason it's not my favorite film. And that really sucks because literally everything else about this movie works to an incredible degree. The songs, there's not a bad one in here. The Bells of Notre Dame is an even better opening than Bonjour, and it also happens to be really catchy. The villain, one of the best and most complex in all of Disney. He literally is the most intimidating villain in all of the Renaissance. He also happens to burn villages to the ground and kill people in cold blood. If this movie didn't have a tonal problem, it would be better than anything on this list. It's just brought back by those problems that really didn't need to be there. I still can't believe how high this movie is for me. The Little Mermaid is practically perfect. It's on the same level of fun as Hercules, but it works better for me for a few reasons. First, Ariel is a really interesting protagonist, and his leaps and bounds better than Hercules. I know people claim that she's just arrow-headed and boy-crazy, but I respectfully don't agree in the slightest. She's actually one of the most motivated characters in the Renaissance, and Disney in general, if we're being honest. The other thing that I like about her is she has a really positive spirit, but never to the point of idiocy like Poppy. The side characters are also pretty great. I really like Sebastian and the other sea creatures, though I wish we could have seen the sea creatures a little bit more. Like most of the movies on this list, the music is pitch perfect and a great addition to each scene. The other thing that really works is the animation. You know, it's funny how this 1989 movie has better animated looking fish than the 2004 Shark Tale movie. The color palette is vibrant and perfect, so the movie really has a distinct underwater feel to it. Every place has a different vibe about it, from the colorful concert aesthetic of the opening to the dark layer of Ursula, and everything in between. How could you not like that evil demon? I know most people wouldn't claim this to be in their top two, but honestly, I really can envision something much better than this. There's nothing quite like it for me. Now, here's a common movie opinion that I agree with. I mean, obviously, this movie's number one. How could I choose anything else? The grand story the Lion King decides to tell has no holes. It's a tight story that perfectly encapsulates emotion. It does this with excellent cinematography, incredible lighting, bratty but likable and relatable young Simba, and 2D animation that is able to make the audience be in Africa, despite all the crazy things that are happening. I really don't know what I could say that hasn't been said. It's a perfect masterpiece. Disney will never make anything as good. Watch this movie. That is your recommendation for the next month.